Okay, thank you for joining us for another episode of Mike Smith's Brain. So today we have a very special guest. Aaron Neville is in our office joining us, so I hope you enjoy the festivities.
Thanks, Mike. Now let me give the people what they really came for. I said I don't know much, but I know I love you. That may be all I need to know.
AeroCom drastically reduces the amount of time it takes for IT professionals to find the best telecom and cloud solutions for their business. Our president, Mike Smith, works with over 150 providers. You can pick his brain to find the most beneficial technology and best provider for your business.
So what I'm going to do is review with you all the major questions you should be asking if you're shopping for a DDoS mitigation provider. So the first question you should be asking, are they an ISP or not an ISP?
ISP, oh, not ISP.
And why that's important is because if your DDoS mitigation provider is the same as your ISP controls all of your IP addresses and the pipe, so they have full control. So they can do things faster with your IP addresses than someone who's a third party who's not controlling the IP addresses directly. And then some of the gray area, there's a couple providers out there, I know Windstream's one of them, that their product is actually, they're reselling a third-party ISP for their DDoS mitigation. But to me, that's almost okay because you're still dealing directly with Windstream or that ISP as your DDoS mitigation provider who's in charge of your IP addresses and your pipe. So even if they're using a third party for the mitigation, you're still dealing directly with the ISP who has control of your IP addresses. Okay, so now back to Aaron for the introduction of our next topic.
ISP agnostic, yeah.
Okay, so that was ISP agnostic, if you didn't know. So you want to be asking your DDoS mitigation provider if they are ISP agnostic. So that means assuming that you're dealing with your ISP for your DDoS mitigation provider, you want to also know, can they provide mitigation on another ISP's service, not just their own? So can they provide mitigation on another ISP's IP addresses? So for instance, if you have a backup internet connection and your ISP is also your DDoS mitigation provider for your primary internet connection, your backup internet connection is not covered. So you'd have to get another DDoS mitigation provider to cover those IP addresses, which could be a little bit problematic. Or if you have multiple locations and multiple providers at different locations, you might end up doing different DDoS mitigation providers at each address, which is obviously going to cause you more work when it comes to mitigating an attack. You're going to have to reach out and contact multiple vendors. But there are some ISPs, and I know Level 3 is one of them, Windstream is another one, that are ISP agnostic. So you can go with your ISP for your main DDoS mitigation provider and they can cover their circuit as well as any other ISP circuits that you have, which makes it nicer for you. You're only dealing with one DDoS mitigation provider in the case of an attack, so the communication is going to be a lot more streamlined. Okay, so back to Aaron to introduce our next topic.
Scrubbing centers. Oh.
Thank you, Aaron. So if you were not able to understand that, the next question you should be asking is regarding their scrubbing centers. So if you're looking at a DDoS mitigation provider, you want to know, where are their scrubbing centers located? Are they only in the United States or do they have scrubbing centers also located internationally? That's a bigger deal if you have, say, international locations or servers sitting out there in Asia or in Europe. Things like that are more important to you to know that you're not going to have as much latency if your Asia location servers are getting attacked. You want to make sure you have scrubbing centers that are located nearby to reduce the amount of latency. But if you only have US locations, this might not be a big deal, but it sure is a little bit better if the scrubbing centers are closer to you. So always make sure you ask, how many scrubbing centers do you have, and where are they located? Now back to Aaron to introduce the next question.
You know this one, Mike. Sing it with me. Proactive versus reactive filtering.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, so proactive versus reactive filtering. What that means to you is you need to ask your DDoS mitigation providers that you're quoting if they do proactive filtering or not. What that means is, will they start mitigating an attack as they see fit right away, as opposed to waiting until you contact them, tell them you're being attacked, and ask them to start filtering. And then if you do that, they usually give you a 15-minute guarantee to when they will actually start mitigating the attack. So you want to know proactive versus reactive filtering. And there's advantages, disadvantages either way. Like for instance, Integra does reactive filtering only. They don't have really a proactive option, but Integra is going to be a lot less expensive. Integra, I think, starts at around $375 a month. So that might be a great fit for some people. But on the other hand, a company like CenturyLink can do proactive filtering, but you're looking at a minimum of around $3,500 a month if you have a gig circuit. So a lot of differentiation there in the providers. Make sure you ask that question and know what is the best fit for you. All right, back to Aaron for our next question.
Ingestion capacity.
Thanks again, Aaron. All right, ingestion capacity, definitely not digestion capacity. You want to ask your DDoS mitigation provider what is the largest amount of attacks they can mitigate at any one point in time, all of their customers combined. Why that's important, I think the largest attack known to date is around 400 gigs. So you want to make sure that what's your likelihood of getting attacked on a large scale, what's your need there, and make sure that that provider has enough capacity to mitigate an attack that big. Like for instance, Server Central is a company that has basically an unlimited ingestion capacity. They can withstand tons of attacks, very large attacks, whereas a level 3, a Windstream, I think it's around 1 terabit of attacks, whereas some other providers are small, and like I think Integra is around 30 gigs. So you want to know what's your likelihood of attack, how big are you worried about, how big of an attack are you worried about, and can your provider handle that large of an attack? All right, Aaron, give me what you got.
Maximum bandwidth.
Maximum bandwidth. You need to ask your DDoS mitigation providers that you're quoting, what is the maximum amount of bandwidth that they can mitigate on? Some providers, it's unlimited, like AT&T. It doesn't matter. They have an unlimited amount of bandwidth they can do. Other providers, it's limited. So like for instance, CenturyLink, it's 10 gig. So you want to make sure you know that there's not a limit if you need a lot more bandwidth than say 10 gig. Know your needs and ask the providers how much bandwidth they can mitigate maximum. Aaron, take it away.
Pricing structure. Yeah.
Okay, pricing structure. Pricing structures vary widely between providers. Actually, when I was researching all these DDoS mitigation providers, this one is one of the biggest questions you need to ask. You need to really understand your needs and find a provider that's pricing structure meets your needs. They all price this differently. Like for instance, some price it based on hours of mitigation time. That's like AT&T's model. Others price it based on number of mitigations per month. That's Integra's model. Others price it based on unlimited mitigations. That's CenturyLink's model. Others price it depending on how much clean bandwidth you need per month. That's a very common one that a lot of providers do, such as like Via West. So you need to know what your likelihood of how many attacks are you worried about? Are you worried about maybe having no attacks at all? Are you worried about having tons of attacks? Or are you worried about having very large amounts of attacks? Do you have multiple circuits all throughout the country and need a provider like AT&T where it's unlimited amount of circuits? Do you want to keep the monthly cost low and just in case you ever get attacked, you want it there? So know your needs and make sure you find a provider whose pricing structure meets how you need your DDoS mitigation done. Aaron, Give me what you got.
SSL HTTP HTTPS.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, SSL HTTP HTTPS. What that means is, do you have servers that are public internet facing, like web servers? Do you have large website servers that you're running? If you do and you need DDoS mitigation for those servers, you need to ask and make sure your DDoS mitigation provider will protect those servers. Some of them don't. Some of them do, and some of them, no matter what, it's the same price. Some of them will actually charge you more to protect those servers than your other servers. So make sure that you know, do they protect public internet facing servers? Do they do SSL protection, all that good stuff? And make sure that you're not also, maybe you don't have those servers at all and you're paying more for a provider that includes that in their service. So know your needs and ask if that's something that they do. All right, so that's it. Those are the main questions that you need to ask if you're shopping for DDoS mitigation providers. Obviously, there's more questions there. Obviously, there's other things you can ask, but those are the big ones. If you ask those, you're off to a great head start. I hope that provided you with a lot of value. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Wait! If you like the videos, there's a lot more where that came from. Just follow us on social media and make sure you get the next one. You like all of them. And also, if you want to spend a lot less time gathering cloud and telecom quotes and work with an honest and trustworthy person, make sure you find out how at aerocominc.com. Have a great day.